Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. In today's session of Visual Jforex, we will be learning about the data types which we use to define various variables. We have to do the classifications of various variables in different data types. There are inbuilt data types in Java, which is our underpinning language, and for ease of use, we have developed additional data types for this particular setup, and we have all these data types listed here, which we have to use as per the need, and they help us in classifying the data and the operations. As you might be aware, different data types can't be interacting amongst themselves. So whenever we need the interaction of any particular variable, they must be of similar data types, and that also makes the program more efficient, and also we can cut the clutter. So here we will see about the data types, and as you might be aware, there are inbuilt data types here. I am taking this list from a textbook, the computer science and interdisciplinary approach, and as you can see, these are built-in data types in Java: integer, double, boolean, char, and the string. But for our setup, which is more complex, we have developed more data types. You can always make your own data type and name it. So here, that has been the approach adopted by the Dukascopy Visual Jforex developer team. If you consider this first data type, which is the applied price, we will go as per the initial inbuilt structure. So we will consider the integer data type first. So let us start with the integer data type. So here, integer data type, as you might be aware, is fairly simple to understand. As we have been studying since our school days, integer, uh, it's a number, and we can carry out simple calculation, arithmetic calculations like addition, subtraction, multiplications, and if we consider particular utility here, suppose if we are creating a new variable, let us take a new variable here, and you have to define the data type here. As you can see, there is this long list of different data types, and you can use any of these, but we need a particular data type for particular purpose. Suppose if you are defining the stop loss or the target price, then you need the final result to be in integer, but many times it might happen that your initial calculation is in double, or some of the variable involved is double, and then you have to change the data type. So you have to pay due attention to the data type, otherwise you might intend the algorithm to work in a particular way, but because you didn't get the data type right, it might work in a different way. So to avoid such a scenario, we have to be particular with the data type. And now that we have chosen this data type, the value you can define here can be in the multiple of 1 only. It can't be 1.5, so it won't work like that. Even if you try to write after decimal point, the decimal point is not allowed in this data type. So this is a integer. Similarly, we have different data types. Now we will consider the double. In double, you can use all the whole numbers, the rational numbers, and here, as you can see, there is a for programmers is a double precision 64-bit floating point, and you can carry out more detailed operations, arithmetic operations here involving the decimal points as well. And if we are creating a new variable with a double type, then you can now take the value in fractions as well. Suppose 0 point, now you can provide any decimal point to any extent, and say you can take such kind of values as well, which were not permitted for the integer type. So this is double, and most of the calculations you will be doing here, if we take the calculation expression, Then its inbuilt data type is double. The output is generally, if you take a pip size, if you take any, oh, battery is running low, so we might run into trouble. Now let us continue till the power unit permits. Now if you consider the result of the calculation, as you can see here, it can be of any type. Now you have to define here, it can be string, it can be date and time. Date and time is of long format, and the integer, and then double. If you take string, then it will only take name, no arithmetic value variable will be created. So, and if it is a double, then it can have the fractional elements as well. It can be used with decimal points. And if it is integer, then as I said, you can't have fractional values. Date and time, the long is going to permit you to use bigger values, and that's why it is considered a long. And here for our setup, our API, it is a date and time value. Suppose if you want to use the pending open there, you will need the order validity to be defined, and at such instances you can define the order validity in say 1 hour, 2 hours, or whatever amount of time you want to use. And also in other instances, if you are using time unit, like a condition where you want the trading to happen during the particular period of time, there also you will need this particular variable date and time, particular data type. So that's how it has been structured. Now if you consider we have this is the time period. Suppose if you want to have any variable which is of indicator time, the indicator type, then you have to define the, let us take moving average, EMA. EMA is fairly well known. Now here you have to define the time period. Suppose if it is 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, or 4 hours, or whichever time you want to utilize, then you have to define. As you can see, the data type is period, and here you will have these options starting from 10 seconds to monthly. So these are inbuilt variables available for use. Now if we consider, we have considered integer, date and time, double, period, and instrument integer is done. So let us now move on to signal. Signal, it is depending upon the internal structure you are using. Suppose if you are using the strategy as in a particular indicator as a single block, then you will need this data type, the signal. And what happens here, instead of going for a fresh trade, the strategy which we have earlier developed now is being used as a single block, and it will simply generate a signal, and depending on the conditions which we will be adding later on, then it will work accordingly. So instead of going for a fresh trade on its own, it will simply act as a building block to a fresh larger strategy, and there you will need this data type, the signal. Boolean, it can be considered having only two values, true or false. So it's like most of the if block, if and else statements are built on this structure. If the condition is true, then certain transaction will take place. If the condition is false, then that transaction won't take place. So that's how you define these Boolean data type. So here if you consider the if and else statement, logical, so it's all as you can see, the output values are going to be in Boolean format, Boolean data types. So these are all output values, and the data type is boolean. Here you can see only two values are possible, two are false. Now string, as I said, string is a inbuilt data structure, and you can store text, and suppose if you want to generate any signal and you want to name it, then you can create this data type using string, and you simply use any particular combination of characters and you will have that variable created with a text, and you can use it to make it easy for you to understand, and then you can store it. So for the day we will wrap up the session here, and as I had said, the power outage is also there at my place, so we will complete this session in this data type description in coming sessions. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous day ahead. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.